Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet.
Hello and welcome to Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast. I'm your host, John Johnson. And The Temptation to Be Your Old Self is a title that I gave the podcast on the relationship channel. Now, I'm going to cross-reference this because I think it's really relevant. And when I talked about your old self, one of the things that I referenced was how exes, meaning ex-relationships, can come back to play a role, maybe sometimes a spoiler, but they can come back to play a role in your life. And if you don't have an understanding about what they can do in terms of, where they hit you mentally, the thing about exes, and it's this, and I'm just going to reference it this way. When you've had an interesting a colorful physical relationship with them, it's hard to forget that because, this is the sex podcast, right? And you come here because you want to hear something about sex. You want to learn something about yourself. And because it's relevant, you can relate to it. And it's really hard sometimes to turn something away when you had a good experience with it. That's sometimes what exes represent is they represent good memories. But the part of the relationship, the other material parts of a relationship just weren't there. And however the sexual part of the relationship fades. Sometimes it's there and it was really powerful, going hot and strong, and then there was so much conflict you didn't get back to the physical part, which for some people is why they're together in the first place. But thinking about other parts of the relationship and how important they are, at least for the longer term, then it sort of put the kibosh on the physical aspect of the sex part in the relationship as it existed. Now, the thing about temptation, and as like I said, the temptation to be your old self is a lot of that really depends on memories, how you remember things, when that memory hits you. So if you're having that temptation to want to, jump back into bed with your ex, but let's say your memory falters. And by that, sometimes it's selective, because think about it. When a memory is there, there's a certain catalyst that brings it back up for you. Maybe it's a certain scent. Maybe there's a person that looks like your ex, and it just brings back all of these memories. And if you're like a lot of people, the bad stuff you just kind of filter away. You just kind of put it in the back of your mind, and it's just there. And a part of that is a survival thing. But when you do this and you have these really strong and fond memories of people who are toxic to you, then it's a slippery slope. How far into those situations do you think you can go and still be okay and still be safe? A lot of people, it's just really one of those things. That's what I call a whole lot of leave alone. You don't want to go back into those situations because you are probably going to be quickly reminded as to why it didn't work in the first place. Now, this isn't to say that people can't grow and turn into different individuals, at least because their experience tells them you need to mature. Something needs to happen different for you in order to have different results. But for what it is, maybe two people just don't have very good chemistry in the other parts that are important. And if you are so prone to, say, being attracted to your ex relationship, think about it. Why did it happen in the first place? And, and this is real material, that if you haven't grown past some of these situations, longing for certain individuals. Like I said, remember about that selective memory part. We tend to want to be really, really happy when we see these people, but there was a song by Sade. It's the rose we remember, but the thorns we forget. And that's so apropos in a situation such as this. So you have to find a way to resist temptation, the temptation to be your old self. One of the techniques that I talked about, and specifically, I think it works for me. I do a lot of journaling, and whether you do it on a digital tape or on your cell phone or whatever medium you record it, whether it's writing it in a book, I do a lot of writing, and at least to keep that exercise up, because I used to do a lot of texting, and the thing is with the autocorrect, I think my spelling just went down the toilet. So I started writing things out just to keep that part of my experience going. So anyhow, I keep up with it so that by writing down my own history, I keep track of the change. Sometimes it's infinitesimal. It doesn't seem like I'm making very much progress, and then at other times I feel like I'm changing by leaps and bounds. And it's nice to go back and chronicle that, because I could be one of those individuals that's really hypercritical of himself and not give myself enough credit. But think about it. When you have gone through the experience of being in relationships with certain people and you have learned a lot, it's sometimes pretty valuable to write those things down, even the tough things, because even though the tougher lessons might seem like they're easier to remember, sometimes they're just those little details that helped get you over the hump. Had it happened one way, it still might have been a horrible experience, but the fact that it happened this other way, it sort of changed it for the better for you. You were able to grow from it and help be the person that you are. I think something else to consider is, and this happens to be how you might view the old relationships that you've had, exes, so to speak. And I don't believe in looking down on them, because remember, they are part of your experience. And, what would that be like for you to just trash them as if, they're not worthwhile? I think it's better that you remain positive about the things that you've done that have helped you grow. And if an experience like that happened, that it wasn't so nice, you can call it an event. Because one of the things that happens when we call it a mistake, and I think it's not wordplay here, but I think it's how we respond to it, that when we feel like we've made a mistake, sometimes we want to go back and fix it. Because if it's a mistake, we want to fix it. We want to correct it, because we're told, hey, we make mistakes, we got to fix it. We can correct it. You can. But by calling certain things a mistake rather than an event, it sort of gets us back into those situations. And if these situations are with toxic people, toxic lovers, then you might be in for something that you can't handle. And let's take it that, let's say you're in a relationship now. You're in a monogamous relationship. I don't know that your current relationship would want you really having the kind of contact and communication with somebody out of your past that might evoke some feelings of romance, which then pulls you out of the relationship that you're in. You see, that gets kind of muddy. And that slippery slope causes lots of friction in life. And I know of someone who went through something like that. And I'm not talking about a ghost self, but I know of someone who had a situation in which they were deeply involved with a person whose ex relationship came back into his life. And thereby, when that happened, the present woman said, hey, this other woman, because women tend to know women, okay? She felt like if this old friend comes back into your life, she's going to manipulate you and make you unavailable for your relationship in your life that you have as it is. Well, he chose the friend. And she ended the relationship because she obviously felt that she wasn't going to be a priority. But she had the courage to do so. And that's another thing with all of this stuff. A lot of this stuff, this takes courage, because I know I've never been good at doing the breakup thing. I think it was just, I just sort of walked away. You don't call each other and I guess we're done. And then maybe way down the road, there's a phone call and I said, well, you didn't call. I didn't call. I guess we were done. And so on and so forth. But some people like to call it. They will call it now. It's done. It's over with. I can remember at a time in my life when I was that way, because I was afraid to say something like that. I thought it made me a bad person. So anyway, I'm going to end this segment, but I will be right back after this. Hey there, listeners. This is John from the Sex Podcast, and I am partnering with Care Of. Now, Care Of is a subscription service that delivers vitamins and supplements, and they are customized for your specific health needs. You'll just take a short quiz and answer a few questions about your diet, your lifestyle, your fitness and health goals, and Care Of puts together a personalized plan just for you. So now we're talking about healthy routines. And since this is summer, how about you make health and wellness a priority again? Now, Care Of makes it easy to upgrade your health routine. So give yourself some support this season and do it with a boost. Now, whether you're looking for energy, better sleep, you want to be able to handle your stress better, or something else to help you feel your best, Care Of's online quiz will help you know exactly what you need. Because their fun online quiz, they'll ask you about your diet, your health goals, lifestyle choices, and I would say it only takes about 5 minutes to complete it. But you'll find out about your own scientifically backed vitamin and supplement recommendations. Now, you answer easy questions like, how much sleep are you getting? Are you looking for more energy? Do you need something to support your weight management, or you're looking for healthy hair, skin, and nails? You know, this thing really gets personalized. And the thing is, it's easy and convenient because it's online. You know, it can be hard to know what vitamins and supplements that you should be taking, but Care Of makes it easy to find out. And by taking the online quiz, like I say, they ask the questions, they put it in place for you, and they're going to send you the vitamin packs and or protein powder, and it's going to be sent right to your door. And it's also customized. Then the packets with the vitamins even say your name on them. I have them myself, and I'm always tickled at that. So here's another thing. As your needs change, you can modify your subscription. And you can do this at any time. So here's part of the Care Of difference. They make sure that what you're putting into your body comes from the best backed sources, and it's honest guidance, and it's transparent. And it's all available on their website. So, like I say, now they offer protein powders, which are available in on-the-go packets, and it's also in tubs. Again, all personalized to your fitness goals and dietary preferences. And here's something else. The individually wrapped vitamin packets are made from compostable plant-based film that meets the same safety standards. So your vitamins are not only kept fresh, but they're also better for the environment. Vegan and vegetarian supplement options are also available to match your dietary needs and to ensure that you're getting the nutrients you need for those specific diets. Now, like I shared, I have taken the quiz myself, and I was impressed. Now, when I walk into a vitamin store, there's just a dizzying array of choices in there. And there are people who are a lot smarter at figuring that out than I am. But for me, being able to go to the website and answer the questions and have the recommendations there really worked. And they mail it to you. It didn't take very long. I think my supplements took about a week or so to get to my house, and I've had them, and it's great. So those of us who tend to buy the vitamins separately, and then you have the little divider for each day of the week, and you put all your vitamins in there, and you have to remember to take them every day. Well, because Care Of puts them in these packets, you don't have to do that. You just tear the packet open, you take all your vitamins, they're right there, it's done for you. So that makes it easy, it's customized. And here's something else I want to share with you. If you go to their website, which is takecareof.com, again, that's takecareof.com. Now, in the promo code, I want you to put in the word relationship. And when you do that, you are going to get 20% off your first order. Here it is again. Go to takecareof.com and put in the word relationship. And when you do that, you are going to get 20% off your first order. I think it makes a difference. It's done so for me, and it has an opportunity to do it for you. Give it a try.
GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast gives you advice on everything from hair to fashion to skincare products. We'll talk about the latest trends in makeup, hairstyles, and anti-aging remedies. And we'll cover all of the newest fashion trends. If you have an interest in or questions about the beauty trends that might work best for you, the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hello, and we're back. Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, and I've been talking about the temptation to be your old self. Now, that's a throw to my podcast on the relationship side, episode 213, but here we are talking about it on the sex side. Now, here's the thing about having sex with your ex. It could be the bomb. It could be the thing that you want, and it makes you feel great. But you'd better be careful, because you could be crossing a line that you can't get back on the other side. I mean, think about, why were they your ex in the first place? Because I can tell you, sex could make us forget all of our problems. And I think in these situations, what else do? We tend to have very selective memories. Why? Because when we have something that's pleasurable in front of us, how many times do we say no? How many times do we remember it wasn't the sex that was bad, it was the other part of the relationship? Now, I know you can say, well, I just want a no strings kind of situation. And okay, maybe, but I also have known that those situations didn't stay that way. It started out that way, but it didn't stay that way. When somebody starts catching feelings for you, and then you try to unwind or get untangled from something like that, it could be a mess. And if this was a toxic person who you were trying to get away from, there's that tendency to want to do over. And I think that comes from people wanting to rewrite their own history. And when they, like I say, when they call things a mistake, it just kicks into their mind that they want to fix it. I think we need to learn I think we need to rebrand it. I won't call it a mistake. Call it an event. See, an event. See, events, we don't necessarily want to do over. It's an event. What's an event? Okay, that person fell off a cliff. You don't tend to want to do that over, do you? You just leave it alone. Car accident. That was an event. You don't want to do that again. You leave it alone. And certain relationships that are toxic, you got to learn. That was an event. You don't have to do it over. Because here's the thing about toxic people. And as I mentioned on the relationship side, episode 212, I talk about toxic relationships, and how in that spiral, that cycle of violence, how that thing tightens up. It's how sometimes it's very innocent how it all starts, where the person can isolate you from your friends. They tell you that you're crazy, and they do the kinds of things, the mental mind games that really convince you that it's your fault. And if you're the person who's really caring and nurturing, and you're trying to make things right, you're a fix-it person. I mean, much like myself. I mean, I would probably be, or used to be, very easily sucked into situations like this. But then when you get around toxic people, you get used for a while, and hopefully you get out of those situations without too many scars and scratches. Some people don't. Some people get trapped into that, and they don't know how to get out. Sometimes they get into them because there's, some dysfunction in their life, and those situations feel really, really comfortable. And others, they don't even have any experience about those situations, but then they get into them, and they sense something is wrong, but they don't know how to get out. And that's pretty doggone scary. Now, if you know somebody who's in a situation like this, whether it's just a relationship, or there's some, there's some emotional abuse or sexual abuse or something going on, hey, throw them a lifeline. Help them get out of that. Get some help for them. And, go online, look for, if it's, domestic violence situations. There's organizations out there that will help you, men or women. And if there's some other kind of violence going on in somebody's life, hey, call the police. Get them out there. Because from the experience that I've had in understanding these situations, once the police see that there's been some sort of abuse going on, they take action. They're mandated to take action. So if you know of somebody who's in a situation like that, hey, they may be afraid to even say something. And it just might be, you might be the person that prevents them from experiencing any more harm. So think about that. And if this is a situation that you're experiencing, I mean, my heart goes out to you. I want you to be able to get out of those situations, because the longer you're in them, the more normal those things seem, and the harder it is to get out of it. So I'm going to take another short break, and then I will come back.
always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. Jordan and Keith is Entertainment Tonight meets Access Hollywood.
I'm Jordan. The guy laughing, that's Keith.
Yeah, I'm Keith.
An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hello, welcome back to Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast. And I've been talking about the temptation to sex your ex. And I've been talking about what you may face if that is something that you choose to do. And I talk about why that's a temptation for a lot of people. And as I had shared earlier, there's a song lyric in the song by Sade. I'm trying to remember the song. Never as good as the first time, I think is the name of the song. And there's a lyric line that says, the rose we remember, the thorns we forget. So sex with your ex obviously is very charged. And for some people, it's about reliving memories. And I advise against it. I think just for the simple fact that when we're dealing with things like that, we tend to reopen stuff that we intend to leave closed, because we start out thinking we can be real selective, but it's a door that opens, not just a little peephole, but it's a door, and everything behind that door falls out. It's like the closet full of a lot of things. And what happens when you open the closet? Boom, everything falls back out on you. Not just the stuff you want, but everything. So I say stay out of that. It's a lot easier than trying to navigate and do all the damage control that happens. And if you are presently in a situation, a relationship, how would you explain that to your present? I mean, unless you have a quote unquote open relationship, or you're polyamorous, or have those sorts of understandings about things. But as I understand, polyamorous relationships are, everybody knows what's going on. There's nothing clandestine. There's nothing hidden. And so anyway, I just thought I'd wax about that to share. Now, thinking about the sex with the ex, I can't overemphasize. I have talked about it from the perspective of you and your thought process. When you think about it from the other person, let's say they show back up into your life, you have to wonder, what's their motivation? You have to ask that. Not because you are calling them a bad person, but you have to ask, what's their motivation? And if they haven't processed, gone through their life, thought about the cause and effect, thought about their actions, thought about the mistakes, thought about the things that they've done in life, thought about their own events. I mean, I use the word mistake, but that means people want to fix it. But thought about their own events in their life, then you wonder why they want to reconnect with you. And I have a theory. And my theory is people remember the good times. I think we tend to default to that, because if we remember negative all the time, we couldn't survive. We have to learn to bury certain things in order to move on, in order to get on with life. But think about this. What makes you want to be with somebody? And I think part of it is because they make you feel good. That's a big part of it. Not a little part, but a big part. Because they make you feel good. And with that in mind, you having been a part of their life, a feel-good part of their life, they want to recreate that. They want to relive that. And when we're talking about these sort of do-over sorts of experiences, and remember I said that we tend to want to cherry pick our memories, but when you think about opening that closet door, because you're not just going to open a peephole. There's a lot of other things that get connected with that. I talked about, doing things with no strings attached. I mean, we have all of these euphemisms for these things for a special reason, because it describes what we want, but we don't have control over everything in terms of what the mind wants to remember. Sometimes, and we know about people with selective memory. Sometimes it helps us, and sometimes it really doesn't. Sometimes they come up with things we wish that they would forget. And if you've had a situation in a relationship where you had one of these individuals that remembered everything bad about you, and they reminded you, and think about it. If you are able to get out of that situation, why would you jump back into it? Because every once in a while you had a good memory. And I want to think it's because of this. There is a part of you that feels guilty about it. It didn't go well, and you want to fix it. And you want to fix it because you want to be able to rewrite your history. And when you can rewrite it and make it right and make it better and fix it, then you can erase it as if, okay, now we're done. But I'm going to tell you, it doesn't work that way. I mean, it's idealistic, but it doesn't work that way. And sex is such a powerful draw to make you forget why things don't work. This is why you have to really be careful about succumbing to the temptation. You have to keep yourself well on the other side of the fence. A lot of people think they can go right up to the line and, then skirt off. I don't know how you go right up to the line with something like sex. Either you do or you don't. Either you become intimate with them or you don't. I mean, you might think that you can play around with that for a while and be flirty and flirtatious. You're just moving closer and closer to the line. So you have to know whether you're going to be tempted or not. And I think most people are. It takes a lot of self-control, a lot of discipline to not get caught up into that. And for most of us, we probably need a chaperone or a monitor or something like that helps keep us on this side of the line. Makes it better for us. Much, much better. I can recall a personal situation of mine in which an ex-relationship wanted to come back into my life. And initially I entertained the conversation. But fortunately, I also remembered how toxic that person was, because it did not take one day for this person to remind me of all the things that happened before. And I thought about it. I said, oh, no, I'm not going to relive that. I don't care how much temptation he threw at me, because I was at least strong enough in this situation, because it didn't go well. It was embarrassing. And, it's funny how people like that tend to control the narrative, because the sensationalism of all of the things that they say, even if it's not true, the sensationalism of the stuff that they say is so captivating that it's salacious. It's hard to live that stuff down. I mean, eventually you do. And of course, I lived it down. But I think at the time, it felt worse than it really was. But because that was the person that I was dealing with. And remember that part I said about how people make you feel when you're with them? When they make you feel good, you want to be there. Well, I remembered that I didn't feel good. And that made it so easy to turn around and walk the other direction. I mean, run. Okay. That's what you do. If you're struggling with that part, think about how bad you felt and don't sugarcoat it, because then you're deluding yourself. Then you're trying to fix it. You're being that old self. And I know how good sex can be when it works. And even when the relationship is not working, the sex can be good. But I think it's the relationship part you need to think about. Do you want to bring all that toxicity and stuff back into your life? I think not. I'm John Johnson, and this is the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast. Thank you for listening.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast.